Grandma's Kitchen.
There's a fiddle tune and a wooden spoon while she's stirring and singing. There's friends leaving or family land, and then the phone's usually ringing. No matter who you are or what you've done, everything's forgiven.
Thank God. Thank God.
Thank God. Grandma's Kitchen. And ain't it good to be in Grandma's Kitchen?
Grandma's Kitchen.
Hello everybody, Mary Janet here from Tunes and Wooden Spoons, and there's something very strange happening on my phone. Not sure what it is. I've got a hat and sunglasses on when I look at myself. So I am not at home, as you can see. I'm actually here at my daughter Krista's house, and her and Scott, and with Luke and with Charlie. So it's great to be here. Your opening little scene here is a poppy, of course, in remembrance of all of those who gave up their lives and served our country long ago and in the years to come. So anyway, and actually I had painted this. It was my little humble, you know how I told you before that we do homemade gifts for Christmas, and this one Christmas I made painted a poppy scene, I guess, a picture from on Facebook or on the internet, and I painted this and gave it and framed it to the kids, but I thought it was appropriate for today. I'll put it back where it belongs. And hopefully it won't fall down. So today we are making Grandma's raisin bread, and it's so appropriate that I'm here at Krista's up in Dartmouth, and her dining room table is Port Hood Grandma's original dining room table and chairs that she kept once the house was being torn down. The old house was torn down, and she inherited the table and chairs. So it's kind of nice to be working on her table. So that's pretty precious. So I hope you all had a wonderful week, as I did, and we want to get started right away because it's going to be a long day. I'm going to be stopping and starting after every section. So this first part is actually making the bread, and so many people think that bread is so hard. I couldn't make bread, but really, we're going to make the bread. The time that you need to make the bread is what takes the longest, but really you're just kind of, tending the bread while it's raising. You can just leave it alone. So it's a good thing. And this particular recipe, my mother-in-law, Marie, was a beautiful cook, but she often made her raisin bread, and we didn't have the recipe, and I was looking for it, and her daughter actually had the recipe. And of course the recipe wasn't really well defined as far as the ingredients go. It didn't have how much flour, it just had flour. So I knew that everybody would be needing to know the exact amounts of flour that you would put in. So when I was making it, I was measuring it as I went along a couple of weeks ago. And so I have that all ready for you. So we're going to get started right away. I have already washed my hands so they're nice and clean. I'm not going to spend time doing that. So I'm going to take you with me. We're going to go to the stove. But first of all, I'm going to I have a helper today, my daughter Krista. And she's going to, you turn the burner on medium high and it'll get ready. Because I'm used to propane and it's immediate heat. So I'll just turn this camera down a little bit so that you can see the table, but let's see if I can do this a little bit. There we go. So here I have my raisins. And so the recipe should be online if you need to see that. So I'm using what was left in my Thompson raisins from No Name brand, but I know a lot of you are able to get the Luxia raisins at the Bulk Barn, and I will be getting more of that. Now, this recipe calls for 2 cups of raisins, and that's a fine smattering of raisins throughout your bread. If you're one that likes a lot of raisins, put 3 cups in. You don't have to increase the water when we're doing this on the stove, okay? So for now, I'm making it as Marie's recipe. You're going to put 2 cups of raisins. See if there's 2 cups here. Yep. Well, you know what? I'm just going to put the rest of the bag. There's no sense. So it's a little bit more than 2 cups. And we're going to put that in there. And I am going to put in with that a cup of water, and we're going to put it on medium-high heat. And as soon as it starts to bubble around the edges, we're going to turn it down on simmer on a lower setting for 5 minutes. Okay, so I'm just going to take this to the stove, and I'll come back and get you, so you can come with me. Okay, I'm going to take you with me. Hi, everybody. I see a little thing gadget here. Okay, that's better. I must have pressed a button, and it actually put a hat and put glasses on me, but I found where to change that, so we're good. I don't need to be looking at that. Okay, I'm gonna set you here on the counter, and I'm going to turn you down, please. Okay, we're good. Okay, so there we go. Krista had already put this burner on for me, so it's starting to get warm right away. So the minute that it starts bubbling around the edges, I am going to turn it down just a little bit, and I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes, and that should be enough. I'm just looking at the messages. Holly McIntosh. The kids do that to you too, Holly, do they? All right. So I guess my daughter is saying that somebody is asking a question about whether this recipe can be cut in half. Absolutely. But that I'll leave that to you to figure out how to half it, okay? And just do half of everything that I'm doing. Hi, Mary Janet from Campbell River. I just saw that little message. Okay, this is starting to bubble, so I'm going to turn that down. And I'm going to set the timer for 5 minutes. And this will soften up the raisins and absorb that liquid, and although some of it's steaming off there. There we go. I'll just keep it elevated a little bit. This particular burner doesn't like to go too low, but it is going. It's a little bit, Krista. It's good. Anyway, so there we go. I'll just talk to you while I'm doing this. I was thinking of a story, you know, about veterans and all of that, but I remember there's one story. It's kind of long, so I might have to shorten it a little bit, but I just thought this was an amazing story. This was back in World War I. We have a friend who had, he's passed away now, but this story was about his grandfather who served in World War I. And he got a telephone call one day about a book that this man was on the other end of the phone, and he had been at a yard sale or whatever, and there was a prayer book there that the soldiers kept on them while they were serving in the war, and he bought the prayer book, and he vowed to himself that he would find the owner, and he researched and everything. This was right in Nova Scotia, and he called our friend and told him that he found this prayer book and he had purchased it, and he said, as far as he's concerned, a prayer book like that from a war veteran should never be for sale anywhere. And our friend was thinking, oh, and what if this is a scam? He's looking for money. But anyway, as it turns out, he didn't want anything for it. So our friend and his son went down the province, and they met the man, and they picked up the prayer book. And the last entry, he had been putting little things in it. The last entry was that tomorrow we go over Vimy Ridge. Imagine. And this grandfather was actually injured in Vimy Ridge, and was in hospital in Halifax for many days. And I think of all the women that had to raise, he had a big family, already had a big family, and was from somewhere outside of Truro he lived. And the woman kept the farm going and all of that. And not only Vimy Ridge, in that particular year, this man survived Vimy Ridge, and while in hospital at the VG, or Camp Hill, he survived the Halifax explosion. Two big events in history. And he was in a ward in Camp Hill with 3 other veterans of the war, and they were all killed except him. He survived. And his wife got a telephone call to say that they were taking him to Truro. She left on the horse and wagon, went to Truro, picked him up, and took him home. The grandson wrote this story in class for Remembrance Day, and CBC got a hold of it, and he had to go on CBC radio. Now, just about ready. You lose a lot of the water here, but anyway, that's just an amazing story to me. And that grandson would not be alive today, because 9 or 10 months after that wife went and picked up her husband, they had a baby, and that baby ended up having a son who was our friend, and he ended up having that grandson that told the story. So isn't that just amazing how those things turn out? Okay, well, this is just about 6 more seconds here. I'm going to take you back to the kitchen table. Okay, Hit cancel. Turn the burner off. And back to the dining room. So nice to be here at my daughter's house. And actually, where did I lost you? There you go. So, and next week, I'm going to be at this is Krista, that where I am today, and I'm going to be at our daughter Kelly's next Sunday, doing that. So anyway, I'm just going to tighten this up a little bit, but I will be turning it around momentarily. So what I'm going to do now, I apologize for that. Hi, Donna Marie. So right now, since I have a helper, I'm going to make perfect use of my helper. And I am going to ask her to give me, you know what I would like you to do, Krista, is pour some really hot water into this just to warm up the measuring cup. And then I want 1.5 cups of lukewarm water for the yeast. Isn't that fun? Put them to work, put them to work. So I'm going to turn the camera and turn it down to what I am doing here. Now that tepid water, hold on a second. That tepid water, if you're using like a thermometer, like I have this instant thermometer, a digital thermometer that does meats and does loaves and all of that, I got from Tammy from Pampered Chef. But there's all kinds of makes and models out there. I'm just saying that that's the one that I have. So if you're like a beginner and you're worried about that, and you want to make sure that you have the right temperature for tepid water, it should be between, and for yeast, I'm talking especially for the yeast, between 110 and 115. You know, a degree here or there is not going to matter. But you know, if you've had babies and you know what, you know, you use your old wrist there, that you don't feel anything, it's perfect. It's perfect. So I'm going to turn this around now and see. I hope I can do this. Okay. Okay, everybody can see that, right? That's good. Put that over there a little bit. There we go. So one more thing I need, Krista, that I don't have is an egg. Here's the tepid water. So I have 1.5 cups of water in here. Just put that aside for a minute. And to that, I'm going to get some sugar. I need a teaspoon of sugar. When you're not in your own environment, I just need 1 teaspoon of sugar, and I'm going to stir that around in there. A teaspoon, wherever that is. Okay, different measuring spoons. Great. Okay, just sprinkle that, and I'm going to just stir that until the sugar is dissolved. And in here, I am using Fleshman's Active Dry Yeast. There's going to be questions about the yeast, but this is my recipe that I'm using, and that's Active Dry Yeast. But if you have the instant yeast, just know that this 1.5 cups of water has to be put in with your liquid. If you're adding your bread machine yeast or your instant yeast to your flour, you'll just have to make up for the loss of that 1.5 cup and a half of liquid that you'll put in. But for this, I'm doing the old-fashioned way. So this is going to, it's a tablespoon and a half. And I think that's probably about the, what, the envelope of yeast? I'm not sure. I'd have to measure it out. That when you get just, if you didn't buy a jar of yeast. So Krista, I'm going to get you to set the timer for 10 minutes. So this is going to be set aside for 10 minutes. Okay, I'm just going to put it over here. And in the meantime, we're going to mix up the rest of it. Okay, so I'm going to take 1 egg and I'm going to whisk it. And just whisk your egg. I'm really keeping Krista busy because now, Krista, I need 2 cups of warm water. 2 cups of warm water, and I'm going to need a cup of milk. And I'm going to need 2 tablespoons of melted shortening. So Krista's looking after that for me. And that'll take about, to melt your shortening, probably 30 to 40 seconds in the microwave. And you're going to put in there 2 teaspoons of salt. And I'm going to put in a half a cup of molasses. And Krista, my other little measuring cup, I think you took that. I'm going to need that. Now, this is what I do when I measure out the molasses. I put some, I'm just going to spray my measuring cup, and the molasses will come out nice and easy, okay? So, I'm using Crosby's Fancy Molasses. When I think I told you in an earlier one, but maybe there were different people watching. But when I was out in Alberta one time, I made my porridge bread out there. So I went to the store and I got all my ingredients, including the molasses. And of course, it was a different brand. That's all they had at the shelf. So I took that. Well, it was the worst thing ever. I'm switching to my wooden spoon. So when you spray it, you know, it comes out nice, pretty nice and clean there, so that you're not have a lot. And that extra little fat is not going to hurt it one little bit. So I'm just going to mix that molasses up, and it's starting to already smell like raisin bread. Okay. And I'm going to add the 2 tablespoons of melted shortening. Just make sure that there's none left there. And I'm going to add the raisins. They're still quite hot, but it will eventually get to the right temperature by the time we get to add the yeast. we'll make sure that it's at the right temperature. I'll get Krista to bring me my gauge, my temperature gauge. Yeah, Krista, do you want to come to Port Hood every Sunday? So this is how this works. I'm just gonna, for fun, okay, I have it turned on. See what this measures right at the moment. So it should be between 110 and 115, or I guess 100 to 115. I'm not even sure now. I can't remember. So that's 102. That's right. That's fine. Yeah, that feels really good. So how many minutes left in the yeast? 4 minutes. Okay. Well, we'll get a chance to chat for a few seconds. There. Just going to talk to you. It's a little swing on this one. We'll catch Krista in her pajamas. She's been busy just cleaning everything, thinking that, oh my gosh, you know. But it's all good. It's all good. We shouldn't be worried about what other people think, right? But so we're going to be going live 3 different times today. So when we mix in all the flour here and knead the bread and set it to rise, it's going to take an hour and a half for the bread to rise. And this bread takes longer to raise the first time for sure, because it's got molasses in it, and it makes for a heavier bread with the raisins and everything. So in order for it to be a double in size, it takes an hour and a half. So I'll be signing off after we put this aside to raise, and then in maybe 5 minutes before the hour and a half is up, I'll come back online, and hopefully if you're making this with me, we'll all be at the same point, and we'll pan it and show you how I pan it, and then I'll go offline after that because it takes another hour for the second raising. And then when we come back on, we'll be ready to put it in the oven. And it takes only 40 minutes, around 40 minutes to bake. And we might have some entertainment. Pretty sure we're going to have some good entertainment come by while it's baking. And I took a loaf of bread from home with me so that we can have tea and some bread, whether it's going to be toasted or just with butter on it. Some people like it toasted. Krista likes it toasted, for example. And anyway, so we're going to be having that. And I also have something special that I want to share with you today as well. It's a little project that our daughter out west, the one who started me on Tunes and Wooden Spoons. We have she's a high school math teacher, but on the side she's an amazing photographer, scenery and all of that. And you can find her on Facebook with it's Margie McDonald Photography. She has a Facebook page, and she just loves going on excursions, and she's done lots of Cape Breton photos and lots of Alberta. You know, the beauty of Alberta and the beauty of BC. She went on a 2-week trip to BC this summer. Oh my God, the photos are incredible. So we're going to have a little job for you to vote on a couple of things, and we're going to be getting together on recipe cards, not recipe cards, but an actual card that you can send to someone, and there'll be a recipe from me on the back and a photo from her on the front, and we'll have them for sale. But I'll show you a sample of what it may look like, because we're just thinking about doing that. And this is not a Christmas card. This is just, any occasion card. Okay, so how's that yeast doing? 40 seconds left. We're doing really good. Okay, so I am going to put this back down. How's that? Okay, I think that's good. The yeast is looking great. I have my famous piece of paper towel that's really good for the fingers. Okay, and as well, I wanted to mention, there's our 10 minutes is up, and this is what my yeast looks like. It's got a nice head on there, you can see. It looks really good. But this, I posted on my personal page, for those of you who are friends with me on my personal page, and I also posted on Tunes and Wooden Spoons. It was an interview that I did with Michelle Greenwell. She has a blog that she has begun, and if you haven't, I think you'd be interested in playing it. I had a hard time getting it posted, but I did, and it's just it's nice. I really enjoyed listening to it myself. And what that is, oh, it's a little bit of shortening. Okay, we're good. Okay, so now we're going to put that right in to the raisins. Now you can smell like the bread, what it's going to be like. You're just going to give that a stir. Stir it up. Hurt it one little bit. So now it's going to be ready for the flour. I'm just going to put it aside for a minute. And I'm going to take another bowl over here, and I'm going to measure out the flour. And Krista, I will ask you for another dish, something like that, that extra that I can use for just for 2 cups of flour, that one. But in here, I'm having my recipe right beside me so I don't forget anything. I'm going to measure out 10 cups of flour. Now I'm just going to give you a little tip. It's something that I do sometimes. I'll take that one. Yeah. We'll put that right here. So I'm going to measure out 10 cups of flour, and I'm going to not talk to you while I'm doing it because I don't want to lose count. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now at this point, those who are using any dry kind of yeast, if you're using the instant yeast or bread machine yeast, you would put your yeast in here and you'd mix it up. And you would put 1.5 cups of warm water in the molasses mixture that we just had there, okay? Now, additionally, I'm going to put 2 more cups of flour in here. Now, the tip that I was going to tell you is, depending on what kind of a house you have and your heat and all of those things, sometimes, depending on the time of year, especially wintertime, your flour might feel cold to the touch, right? And if that happens, put the bowl in the microwave for a minute, and it brings it up to It doesn't make it hot, it just gently warms it. And it kind of keeps with what you want your bread to be nice and lukewarm. But this one feels good. It's just fine. So, I'm going to put that aside for now. And I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to take my bowl back. You should have a nice strong wooden spoon. And you're going to, right away, going to put about 4 cups. I'm not measuring them, but about 4 cups right into your batter. And really, this is all there is to baking bread. Like, we're just about done. You're going to stir that. And don't worry about lumps and bumps. Those little lumps and bumps will all come out as you add more flour. And the more you stir it, sift my flour, yeah. At times, it depends on the, say if you got a cheaper brand of flour. My daughter is asking me, and maybe she's responding to a request, do I ever sift my flour? It depends on how the flour feels. Mine is nice and smooth, but yes, I have an old-fashioned sifter at home, and there are times that I use that for sure. But you do what you want. This flour is nice and pre-sifted, so I'm going to add 4 more, I think, or 3 more. Maybe I'll put 3 more in. And you're going to be adding all of this flour while you're still working in the bowl. It'll be pretty stiff by the time you're finished. But that other 2 cups on the side, all of those 2 cups, you are going to incorporate as you're kneading. That's what they're for. Have I ever substituted raisins for raisins? No. The recipe I'm making is my mother-in-law's recipe. She wouldn't even have heard of raisins. But somebody has asked that question apparently. Krista's keeping me informed here. And I think Tammy's out there too in Alberta. So I'm going to add all of the rest of that flour in. And just very carefully stir it. And this is really not something that you can probably, I guess you could do it if you have one of those nice fancy mixers. I just worry about that the raisins will get split up because you want them to be whole in the bread. You need a good strong arm. It's good exercise for the arms. Of course, this beautiful wooden spoon. Thank you, Sonia Boyd. I thank you every time I use it. She's the pampered chef lady in Antigonish, and she kindly sent me these beautiful spoons when we started Tunes and Wooden Spoons. And my daughter Tammy, of course, is signed on under Sonia, so I was very happy for that. Okay, that looks pretty darn good. Don't worry if there's still some flour here and there. It's not going to hurt because you're going to be incorporating that. Okay, so we're going to pour that out onto your work surface. And going to take some of that flour that's in that 2 cup, the 2 cups we put aside. I'm going to sprinkle it on my baking mat here. Okay. Stir it around. And you're just going to pour it out. And I'll show you again. Back when I made the cinnamon rolls, I cleaned out my bowl with flour. I'm going to keep the bowl here. Krista's so nice to be taking all of the stuff, but this particular one, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to show them what I do with the flour so that you don't end up with a doughy surface. So now we've got our dough on the flour. It's still quite sticky. So just take a handful and sprinkle the flour over it. And just with your fingers, just push it down into the dough. This is all you do. Like, I'm so thankful that there's people that are learning, and not that I'm the best cook in the world. I know there's fancy cooks out there. My daughter Kelly was telling me about a lovely gal that makes beautiful cupcakes from up here and sells them. What was her name, Krista? It was McDougall, I know. I can't remember what her business was called. But, you know, there's so many people like that. Jen, I think it was it? Yeah, she was out to dinner with a bunch of friends. So there's so many good cooks on here. But this is just plain old simple bread and things that I'm making. And so there, you just kind of fold it over as you're adding more flour. So I'm going to sprinkle some more. Bottom line is you just want to mix it until it's really not sticky so much anymore. And soon we'll be ready to knead it. I'm just trying to get the stickiness away so that I can actually, hope you can all see everything okay. Now, I think it's pretty much ready to knead. I'm going to turn it over in half, and I see some sticky stuff there. Just sprinkle it with flour, press it in. Just keep doing that until it's ready. See, there's no real sticky there now. We're going to be ready to knead it momentarily. Oh yeah, a little bit more there. Okay, we're going to use all of this flour as we're kneading. So, to start it off, I've done this before when I've made the other breads that we've made. So just in case there's anybody watching who hasn't done this before, we're going to fold it over, and you're going to use this part of your hands, and you're going to fold it over like that, and you're going to push forward with your heels of your hand, and you're going to turn the bread around. You just have to do it a couple of times. Sprinkle a little more flour. You're going to fold it over, and you're going to push forward with your hands. Turn it around, fold it over. Don't be afraid. You've got lots of flour to incorporate, and you're going to do it a few more times at 5, 6, 7 times like that. And you know that when you finish adding the flour that you're done. So we're probably going to do it about 15 minutes. We'll be working on this. Krista's enjoying reading the comments. You know what? That's why men say it makes good bread, because they can really get down and into the kneading. I wonder if Hugh Marshall over there on Bella Vista is making my bread today. He uses a bread machine. So I've been talking to him. Maybe he'll make it from scratch. He would be Krista's father-in-law. He and Darlene are a great couple. All right, time for a little more flour. We're getting there. Hope you are all doing this too. And haul in some strong arms if you don't want to do this part. But really, you can't do anything wrong. Just roll it and roll it forward and back. I had quite a few questions this week from people, and I know I've given you the answers some before. People asking about my flour container. My flour container is very old, but it was from Tupperware. And Tupperware have it for sale now, of course. And it is, the new one has a nice handle on it. And it will hold the whole 10 kilogram bag of flour if you buy lots of flour. It will hold the whole thing. It's just great. Okay. Keep using those muscles. My mother-in-law, she had 13 children, and when they were all in the house, I think she made bread every single day. And that was back in the day when they used the cake, what's called the cakes of yeast. They were like about a 1 inch square or 1.5 or inch square. And it smelled so good. I'm just going to pour the rest of this out onto my surface, and I'll use that. So, had a phone call coming in there, had to cancel it. And you'll never guess who it was. It was Natalie McMaster, and I just hung up on her. I'll explain later. Natalie is a great baker, and if any of you are looking for great recipes, you can go to Natalie's website, and I think under the heading Heritage, you'll find a lot of recipes, some of which are hers and others are ones that have been contributed. But there's great recipes. If you're a recipe collector, go there. It's just great. And also, just recently, all of our musicians that are having such a bad year, that are professional musicians that don't get a chance to perform, and they may have to make a living. Natalie and her husband Danelle are doing this great thing. They are having a virtual concert from their home in Ontario. Every year they do a Celtic Christmas tour, and they go all across Canada and into the US presenting this show. Of course, that can't happen this year. And instead, they've teamed up with, cooperating venues and theaters across Canada and across the US. And these theaters will be able to make some money as well as the musicians by, you go to Natalie's website and you look under shows, and you'll see her Christmas, Celtic Christmas tour, but of course it's a virtual tour. And you go then and buy the tickets from the venue that is closest to you and that you want to support. And I guess what they will get a link. They'll give you a link, and you watch it on that night that the show is designated for in that particular theater, and you'll be able to tune in to Natalie's home and enjoy this wonderful Christmas concert with all of their children. They're so talented. So I encourage you to look that up. I think they start maybe December the 4th or 5th. The schedule is there on her Facebook page, and it's also, if you really want to buy the tickets, you go to her website under shows. You can buy the tickets. So it's a great idea. And this goes all through the US and all across Canada for those participating theaters that bought into this concept. And everybody wins. We win as an audience member. Theater wins. Natalie and Danelle and the children win. So it's great all the way around. Can you see how all of that now is incorporated? All that flour is in there. There's little rogue raisins escaping. So I just kind of roll, get all of that extra flour. And it still feels nice and warm. And I just kind of get it into a nice round thing here, like that. All right, perfect. So now I'm going to knead this beautiful blue bowl, but I wanted to show you, for anybody who didn't know this, sometimes, you know, if you make a mistake of washing a doughy bowl with a cloth or anything, and it gets all doughy, you don't have to do that. So what you do is you take your doughy bowl, whether it's biscuits, cinnamon rolls, or a bread, and you sprinkle it with flour, and you clean your bowl by rubbing the flour into the dough residue. Do that all the way around. All that excess dough can then just be dumped in the garbage, and then you have just a little floury residue that you need to wash off. And I like to wash it off in the hottest of water, because we're going to be putting our dough. We're going to be putting some oil in this bowl, and we're going to be raising our bread in there. See? Just like that. And I have my helper. She's going to put this in the garbage. I'm going to get it off my hands too. And you're going to bring back my bowl to me nice and clean. Isn't that great? There now. Washed in hot water. Hot water so that it's nice and clean and dry. So, I'm up here. There we go. I'm just, you know how I already said, I'm not boasting, but I'm talking about how we love to make homemade gifts at Christmas time. So let me show you something. Okay. Sorry, people, I have to loosen this a little bit. But it's nice to see that when even though what you make may not be perfect, it's fun. So this is Krista's stand, and can you see that? There's the elm tree recipe box. And down at the bottom, if you can see this. Can you see that? Oh my God. It's a wooden disc about 10 inches wide. It's a piece of wood. And I got a guy in Port Hood to cut it for me into a nice wooden disc. And then I sanded it, and on there I drew a Celtic symbol. And varnished it, and then painted the stencil of the Celtic symbol and painted it white. Wasn't the most perfect one, but I also had a little spinner, a Lazy Susan kind of a spinner that I put on the bottom so they could use it if they wanted to or not. But anyway, you never know. Okay, my helper just brought me a nice clean bowl. I'm going to turn you down again so you can see this. All right. So in here, I'm going to put a little bit of oil. Not too much. Maybe almost like maybe a tablespoon. And I'm going to rotate it around. All the way up the sides. If you feel that there's too much, I think I have too much in here, but first, before I decide if I'm going to, wipe that off with a paper towel, I have paper towel here, I'm going to put the dough in upside down so it gets full of oil. And then I'm going to turn it around. Oh yeah, that seems to be fine. I might dab at it a little bit, not too much. And really, I'm just going to spread it around like that. So when I put this to raise in an hour and a half, it's going to be heaping over this bowl. So it's going to come up about 4 inches or something like that. And Krista gave me some of her plastic wrap. And I am going to cover it with plastic wrap. I'm not going to do it tight. It's going to be loose so that it has a room and space to raise. And just loosely put the like this. And I'm going to take you into the kitchen. I'm going to try to clean up my hands a little bit here. I'm going to, for the love of heaven. Okay, people. Hi. I'm going to take my bread to the kitchen. And I'm going to put it. Now you can, I'm not used to this particular oven, but you can put the light on in your oven and put your bread in and close the door and let it raise in there. Chris's house is nice and warm, free from drafts, but I am going to put it, I have a towel here, like a hand towel in half, cut in half, and I'm going to put my bread right on top of there. And I'm going to set my timer for an hour and a half. And so I'm going to finish off right now. I'm going to say goodbye for an hour and a half. And I'm going to set the timer right now so that I don't forget. So timer. And there we go. And so I hope you're all at the same point, and we'll see you in about an hour and 25 minutes, okay? And we'll chat then, okay?